Well, the reason that my wife and I really wanted Timothy to go to Fuel was we were starting to hear about the different exciting things that Pastor Moore was saying was happening in different young people. And we know that teenage years are just one of those times where they could go either way. And Timothy was showing some signs of wanting to be a missionary possibly and different things like that, but also having that tug of the world. And it was neat to be able to see and prayerfully consider going to Fuel and having that 2 weeks of intense spiritual training.
Probably the biggest thing that I've seen with my teens that have come through Fuel would be their motivation for service and their 0 to 100 concept, which are major concepts within Fuel itself. But the fact that they are completely dependent, not on their personalities, they're not dependent on even their own intellect, but they're dependent on God for their strength in every aspect of their life, not just simply in their service, but also in their everyday lives.
So what we were hoping to see God work into Timothy was a hunger to do right on his own, that he would choose, even in a youth group where there are fellow Christians, to choose to do that which would honor Christ and to love him and exalt him, to learn how to stand on his own and to learn how to honor God with his choices.
So me and Pastor Chris and Marie and my wife Haley as well, just getting together with Pastor Chris and with Marie and praying over Timothy and praying that the Lord would break him of his pride and praying that the Lord would use him. And
Timothy came back from Fuel. I had prayed earlier, I don't know when, but I remember praying and asking the Lord to change him.
His mother and I saw answers to prayer in his life coming back from Fuel, and that he did take spiritual leadership. And it did cost him for a while as the youth group was trying to figure out, is this just a camp decision? Is it something that's just that he's become weird and he'll moderate a little bit? But it was neat as we prayed and continued to pray for him that he would continue to stand with grace and love, and that he wouldn't push people away, but that he would continue to encourage and to pull people.
I cried when he came home. It was wonderful to see him and also see the change. And it was really wonderful to see him again.
He came back from Fuel. Something seemed to change. His attitude was different every time I hanged out with him. His language, the way he talked to me, and the way he just dealt with certain things was definitely different than when he had left. And it wasn't like a right after thing, kind of like on a camp high. It lasted the entire rest of that year and to now. And that to me was kind of also eye-opening, and it was something that I know that I have my own struggles that I have had to deal with, and I wanted to come here to see if I could, God would help me deal and overcome some of the sins and struggles that I have dealt with.
So after seeing Timothy come back from Fuel, it was encouraging to see Lorena actually desire to go. And we weren't sure if at her age that this was the time to send her, but she so longed to see a difference in her life as she saw in her brothers, that Lorena asked my wife and I if she could go. So my wife and I prayed about Lorena, and we applied there, or she did. And we were praying that God would use it to encourage her to continue on with her heart for the Lord.
My expectations coming into Fuel, I wasn't really sure what Fuel was exactly going to be like. Tim had told me about it, and but I didn't know exactly what they were going to do.
Definitely she tended to be a little bit more reserved, but then realizing that, like, hey, I'm not serving myself, or I'm not serving so that people can see my social skills, but instead of her serving in that way, she now realized, hey, I'm serving God, and I'm serving and I'm doing these things solely for him. And seeing that change in her of just kind of coming out of her shell a little bit more.
Well, going back to my home church, I would like to get to know my fellow church members a little more, and also say hi to guests and get to know them too. That's one of the things that we learned talking to people. A lot of people, like I even get nervous about going up to people and talking with them, but it's easier, I feel like. And especially, I had a friend come with me, and now we can do it together. And I see her talking, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to go talk. Or she sees me, and she's like, oh yeah, I need to go talk. So anyway, encouragement, it's great.
So it's been exciting to see kind of the ripple effect of Timothy and his decision and the impact that Fuel had on his life. And then my daughter, Lorena, seeing it in his life and desiring to do that with such a great passion. And the rest of the youth group kind of watching and really standing off in some ways, wondering, how is this really gonna land? And there were even some that were like, no way would I ever do Fuel. And then as they've seen the consistent, loving, caring change that has happened not only in Timothy, but now in Hattie and Lorena, now it has affected Isaac to go and be part of Fuel. And I really do believe as a pastor too, that I will see even more of a ripple effect as God continues to help these young people to catch the spiritual truths and the discipleship truths that Fuel has been giving to then further the cause of Christ in our youth group and frankly in our church. Because as they come home and they give testimony of what God's done, it has even influenced our church that some of our members have said that they're starting to give out tracts again because of these young people and their testimony for the Lord.